Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Saco School Committee to order at 5 p.m. I'd like to invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. That brings us to item 3 of the agenda, approval of school committee meeting minutes dated September 8, 2021. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Truman.
I move we approve the school committee meeting minutes dated September 8th, 2021.
Motion's been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion on the minutes? Roll call vote on the minutes. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
And School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Brings us to item 4. There are no adjustments to the agenda. Brings us to item 5. There's no correspondence in the packet. Okay, no correspondence. Brings us to item 6, public comment. We have Susan Newmeyer, who is signed up. If you could come forward, please speak directly into the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and present your comments to the school board. Thank you.
My name is Susan Newmeyer, 34 Wildwood Drive, for 30 years. I want to thank you for the countless hours you put in as elected officials faced with making important decisions for the future of our city. When I stopped at City Hall to pay our property taxes recently, 3 words came to mind: value, education, and leadership. These words are defined by Webster this way: value, a fair or proper equivalent in money, commodities for something sold or exchanged, fair price, the worth of a thing in money or goods at a certain time, market price. Education, the process of training and developing knowledge, skill, mind, character, especially by formal schooling, teaching, training. Leadership, the position or guidance of a leader, the ability to lead. We're all faced with personal and global challenges during these times of the pandemic. How educators respond to various circumstances matters greatly. Public education is very important to me. I'm proud to say that I'm the 3rd generation to be involved in this endeavor, although now I'm retired. I know the bottom line is imperative in many, actually most of life's decisions, but public education is not just a business. It is much more than that. Collaborative decision-making is important for leadership within a community that cares about its children and its future. I urge you to approach this work wisely and thoughtfully. Thank you very much for listening to my comments.
Thank you. That is it that have signed up. Is there anyone who would like to address the school board that did not sign up? If so, come forward and be heard. Seeing no one seeking recognition, moving on from public session to item 7, Superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray.
Okay, good evening, everybody. A few items to report. Our pool testing program will begin on October 4th. So in just 2 short weeks, we will begin testing our students and staff members to hopefully protect ourselves from any major quarantines. We've been, knock on wood, very lucky so far. And so we're looking forward to that work beginning. We've hired a couple of employees that will work with the testing, and we have 10 to 12 students from some of the college nursing programs that will be helping us in this. Our nurses have just done a fantastic job, but it's a lot every single day to continue to go down this path, and there's just no way that we could, they could take on that process by themselves. Transportation routes are getting better, but we still need employees. Getting employees in some of our hard-to-fill positions, such as bus drivers, ed techs, custodians, teaching positions, is something that the administrative team has been working on. We met yesterday as principals and directors. Today as a central office staff to look on recruitment and hiring strategies, what kind of job fairs we might have, advertising that we could do, which niches could we be advertising on, and then also just looking at help with how we take applications, get them into the frontline system. It can be a process for some who may struggle. If you struggle with technology, that could be a barrier. So looking at ways to eliminate those. Tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock, we'll have a site inventory committee meeting as we begin to look at all of the sites in the city for the possible new school building. We are starting to get some information coming in from the Google form that we've put out there, but if we have any other residents that listen to these and there are parts of land or things that people may not be thinking about, we need to have your ideas. It's a very simple form to fill out, basically your address, or an address of a piece of land. And then we can start weighing those and evaluating those. We hope to have some work done by the end of November on that piece. The ESSER 3 application will be submitted this upcoming week, and we're going to talk about that during the agenda, and that's for $2.4 million of federal funds. Like everybody else, school departments, parents, we're waiting to hear about what the vaccination kind of rules will be from the FDA on 5 to 11-year-olds. And then once we get that information, we'll be actively looking to hold clinics in this area. Stat that Chris has been spending a lot of time working on is homeless, and we know that we have a large number of our students who have seen disruption in housing. We have 17 confirmed homeless students that we are serving in the district, 12 confirmed homeless situations which are outside the district, and 19 that are still unknown and being investigated. So we're seeing that rise in every situation where housing here in the area is becoming harder for people to maintain, harder for people to get. I know when people fall into one of these situations, they say, hey, we're looking for housing here in Saco. That's a really tough job for someone right now. So affordable housing is definitely a challenge for many right now. But wanted to keep you up to date as we continue to worry. Thankfully, our kids in pre-K through 8 have the opportunity to have that free meal every day, breakfast and lunch, that's provided. But as we work with our community partners on food insecurities and whatnot, we need to be reaching out to every single partner. We're very thankful for our food banks and for Youthful Maine, who does a lot of the fresh fruits and vegetables for some of our families. Any questions?
Seeing no questions, thank you, Superintendent Ray. Moving on to item 9, item 8, which is the chair's report. Chair LaFortune?
Yep, I have something very quick tonight. So I have, it's not really a report. We are in a position where we've, as a result of the last meeting, now have some vacancies on committees. There's very low likelihood that any of these committees are going to meet before our organizational meeting after the election in December, but I'm going to go ahead and backfill them anyway, just on the off chance that we do need to have one of these meetings between now and then. So for strategic, I'm going to add In the open spot, Jeff Richard. For finance, I'm going to add Beth Johnston. Infrastructure, I'm adding Sarah Truman, and personnel, I'm adding Jen Preble. And that is all of the standing committees that had an open at this point in time. And so that'll be just to get us through to December, which may ultimately not be needed anyway, but just so that we have it there. We'll go ahead and do that.
Thank you. Brings us to item 9 of the agenda, staff reports. There are no staff reports this evening. Item 10, board subcommittee meetings. There are no subcommittee meeting minutes to review. Brings us to item 11, old business. There's no old business to discuss, and brings us to item 12, which is new business. Several items, item A and item B, are new hires and resignations. There was a memo in the packet. Superintendent Ray, do you want to follow up on any of the memos that were received in the packet?
So, new hires, there are none that need to action of the school committee. And then resignations, we have accept the resignation of Maggie Thorne, school secretary at Fairfield School.
Thank you. That brings us to item C, a young school auxiliary building and contract and floor plan. Superintendent Ray.
Okay. So as part of our ESSER 3 application that we'll be putting in, part of our reopening plan talked about an auxiliary building to be built at Young School, which would be 4 classrooms. This money would come from, as I said, the ESSER 3 grant at a cost of about $1.2 million in contingencies. One of the pieces that we look at is that we continue to have kind of a squeeze at Young School. It's tough there as we look at all of the new building and homes that are being constructed on that side of town, and then the fact that every single springtime, if we have a bump in a classroom, Jeff doesn't have a classroom to put them in. Also long-term, looking at, we know that we will be 5 to 6 years before we have a new building or new school in this community. We know that the total in lease will end before that time. So as a community, we're going to have to make some decisions around where's pre-K going to go in 4 years. And so as we look at all of those conversations, the fact that you have a conversation every springtime around are we going to need a portable or not on that side of town, by building this building using federal funds over the next 4 or 5 years until we're into a new building, you've taken care of that situation. You have the space. Now, in addition, we've worked with Ryan Summer at the Saco Parks and Rec to think about what could be the long-term uses of this building for the rec department. So after we're in a new school, could this be a place for senior citizens? Could this be a place where you have larger scale meetings? We would construct this building and the floor plan to have removable walls that could fold back and forth. Because one of the things that we struggle with, even as a school department, if we try to bring 15 to 20 people together to talk about something, the only location we really have here in town is here, a cafeteria, or a library at the middle school, and during parts of the day, you can't do anything. You can't just take over the middle school library to have a meeting. When you look at situations in our special education department, safety care training that needs to happen every year, if Jess needs to have a training, there's no space for that. So this gives us an opportunity to solve some possible problems along the way, construct this building using federal funds, not at the local taxpayer expense, something that could meet the needs of Ryan and Saco Parks and Recs in the future, and always give Jeff an out when we have 22 kids in a classroom and we say, no, it's time to add another teacher. So I'm recommending that we approve the contract on this building so that we can begin to take the steps with planning board, all the water pieces, to make sure that we have something in place in the fall.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray?
Mr. Mayor?
School Board Member Truman?
How many classrooms are there currently for pre-K? Looking at the numbers, it's like 5 or 6 classrooms?
We're at 7 classrooms now.
7 classrooms.
So as you start to think about, let's just say it stays at 7. And let's hope that in 4 years, Jeff doesn't need more classrooms or space. There's 4 of those classrooms that could be taken advantage of. Ideally, you would want your pre-K all in one space, but if you're looking at a year out from construction of a new building that solves that problem, as a community, you might say, hey, we're going to do this for a year, or we're going to do that for a year. But it gives us an option, because we know that the total lease is, you know, in 5 years, that eclipses $300,000 per year. And this might give us a little buffer for a couple.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Superintendent Ray, do you want to vote on this?
Yes, so I'd like to have a motion to move forward with this plan and building. Obviously, this is a plan on our end that we still need to have our ESSER 3 application approved, but it can get the process rolling.
Is there a school board member willing to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member LaFortune?
I move that we accept the contract with the IA to build this auxiliary building at Young School.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Yeah,
School Board
just-
Member LaFortune?
All I wanted to say is that we had had a very similar discussion at the Finance Committee meeting earlier, and this, for all of the reasons that Jeremy stated, is a sound decision. I mean, we do have all of those things coming down the line that we are going to have to figure out. Space at Young has been a problem. Space in all of our buildings has been a problem, but space at Young seems to be an ongoing issue. Toddle's going to go away eventually. This seems like a really good way to acquire some space that we wouldn't otherwise have.
Thank you. Just, folks, just make sure to speak into your microphones so that everyone can hear you. Superintendent Ray, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the Toddle Inn lease does allow for a year-to-year extension beyond the 5 years. Is that correct?
Off the top of my head, Bill, I would be able to say yes or no.
Thank you.
There are some clauses to do some pieces. Jason, do you know that piece? Is it year to year afterwards or for the next 5 years?
We may want to look into that, because I seem to remember a year-to-year as long as it was approved by the school board and city council. With that, any further discussion on this item? Roll call vote on this item. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Brings us to item D, an updated student count from pre-K to 8 and TA. Superintendent Ray?
Correct. So there's no action that's needed on this item. This is more informational, just giving you the numbers of students in each grade level at this point at 1827 pre-K through 8th grade. And then at this point in time, based off calculations last week, 908 students at Thornton Academy. I know that number's down just a little bit based off some work that we did today, but we are verifying enrollments, and this is where we are heading into the October 1 subsidy counts.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Ray on the student counts? Okay, moving on. Item E, transportation update and changes with bullet points, next steps, morning runs, hiring, and recruitment. Superintendent Ray.
Okay, so in your packet is the letter that we sent to families looking at how do we improve our transportation across the city, because there are just runs that are just way too long for some of our younger kids. And this is, part of it is a couple of different phases. One, just the solid work that our principals did on looking at dismissal. And When I take Burns School, for example, having construction there while we're trying to, hasn't necessarily helped at all, and I know that tomorrow afternoon is going to be a tough one for us. Patrick emailed us today, and they're going to be digging up the street in the water main and hoping to be done at dismissal time. But one of the things that is just, a super challenge is that in a change that we made is that we were loading buses at our two youngest schools, bringing our buses from Young School across town, hitting the lights and the traffic, loading, and then sending them right back through it again. And so at the end of the day, any delay that we had because you were sitting at the light for 10 minutes or, the pavement brickwork right here on Main Street, just as you go across the lights, if that was delayed, we had our middle school who had buses just coming in at all different times throughout the afternoon. And as we were looking at a 3:15 dismissal, you had times where Ken was having buses there at like 3:40. And so we worked really hard in the afternoon piece to think about, okay, what can we do to make some quick changes? How do we get buses out of Fairfield and transition them into Burns School when there's not a lot of traffic and not having the Young School buses? So we made some changes on that end so that the Young School buses start at Burns School. And once we head to that side of town, we stay there, which has improved the bus times at the middle school. Traffic is certainly another concern, and really looking at how parents come into our schools, and we've done some pieces about one-way streets, and Jeff at Young School has kind of changed his drop-off just a little bit, and as a parent there, it seems like it's going pretty smoothly in the morning time, asking people to turn one way out of the school in the afternoon. Most people can do that and accommodate that for us so that we can keep traffic off from Industrial Park. In the afternoon, it becomes very difficult. And then the last piece that we really need to look at is we need to hire more drivers. We have 3 open positions and not a lot of applicants. So anybody who is watching who would like to become a school bus driver, we will train you. We will support that piece. We have 3 open positions. One of those positions needs to go to pre-K because the runs at pre-K for our 4-year-olds are just way too long. We believe that we have a bus driver in the queue who can pick up that route, which will be able to split those runs and get those runs hopefully under 45 minutes. The other piece that I just need to say a thank you to John Suddy and Old Orchard School Department, because one of the switches, it allowed us to take our Rundle runs that we have, and they're able to transport our Saco Parks and Rec kids instead of sitting at TA, and the Old Orchard School Department is bringing our TA vocational students back over for us because it made no sense to have 2 buses sitting over there, and they're doing that as a favor to us. So a lot of work to continue to do on transportation. I think morning runs are the next piece that we need to look at to make sure that kids aren't there too early or too late. I know we have a situation at the middle school where 8:15, a large group of kids arrive, and the buses need to get on their way to Thornton Academy, so it creates a coverage issue for us. And I would say that the biggest piece is that as we start planning next year, we need to look at probably slightly adjusting our school start times. You just can't have Fairfield, Young, and Burns all start and end at the same time. It doesn't work. It's not possible. We need to have 10 minutes in between those buildings so that we can get that flow and not lose instructional time.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member
just
Preble?
to clarify, thank you, Old Orchard, for helping us. And again, Old Orchard helping us in that as a favor is not costing us money. Superintendent Ray, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to item F, ESSER Funds 3 application update. Superintendent Ray?
Okay, this was an item that we went over in Finance Committee tonight, just looking at how we would spend that money that is given to us by the federal government for reopening of schools. And there is a breakdown in your memo that 20% of that money has to go to learning loss, which will go towards paying the salary of an instructional coach. We have $1.345 million of that money will go towards the auxiliary space at Young School, which again, 1.2 for the building, but we have 100,000 for contingency as, you know, in construction costs fluctuate up and down, and then $45,000 for furniture. We have $50,000 in the budget for all of the reopening costs that tend to pop up from week to week of new things, new testing kits, new nurses stations, carts that we need to go here that we would have to spend. We have $120,000 in this for a swipe card system. I think one of the things that we all have felt not very comfortable with our buildings is the keyed access and be able to have people that have badges that can swipe into the buildings in and out. Having kind of the call monitors with the video there, so if someone's at the door buzzing in, you can see what's there. I think that's a weakness of ours that we need to have available. We also want to move towards time cards access. So with the swipe cards, we have money in there for pool testing employees and additional nursing support. Over time, over the next 3 years, who knows how long we're going to continue to do this piece, and we need to have additional nursing support there. DocuSign has been a great feature in the district that we will fund again. We have coaching and leadership stipends, as with the amount of new staff that we have, we really need to make sure that there's time after school for instructional coaching and to have employees that we hire to do that. We have money in there for moving to electronic employee files. We still have everything in paper and files, and that's a big bite that probably would never, without some funding coming from the outside, you would never have the opportunity probably to budget for that piece. So looking to go into electronic storage of employees' files. One of the things that learned here since my time here is that there is some conversation and concern about the plowing piece at the middle school and not having a good piece of equipment there. And so we have a Bobcat with a sander. We have a lot of walkways there. Worked with Ryan and Patrick on this piece of what would be the appropriate piece of equipment up there that not only could help us during the school year, but could serve the city in the non-school plowing times of the years. That would be a useful piece of equipment for them. And then also, we have a phonics program reboot that Meg has requested, and then $100,000 for cleaning supplies and equipment as we look at just the increase in cleaning materials that you use right now. Try to offset that from the local, plus at the same time, as we move forward, can we redo floor machines, add floor machines as employees become an issue? Sometimes you gotta just have better equipment so that you can accomplish more in less of a period of time. So, questions about ESSER 3 application?
Thank you, Superintendent Ray. I don't see any questions.
The only clarification that I have is, aside from the auxiliary space, there's really no action that we need to take on this evening. This is
Correct.
simply informational. Okay.
So all of this stuff still has to get approved by the DOE once we write it, and then it will come back to us. They may be some projects that they want more information in or not, but those are the next steps for us. So this is informational.
I just wanted to ask one more thing too, with the plow and sander that you mentioned.
Yep.
because I know you were talking to Ryan about that, that's something that is for our use when school's in session, but if like it's school vacation or something and we get a snowstorm, that they're welcome to use that? Is that how that's working? or-
Yeah, well, we kind of looked at all of the equipment and put this out to Patrick and Wire and said, okay, so what would be the best equipment to meet our needs? And then what would be a piece of equipment? And this is what they recommend, the Bobcat plower, that could also meet the city's needs during the summertime, off-season, those types of things, because I think we really want to make sure that we're not buying anything that duplicates something else when we could buy something that serves all.
Perfect, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, moving on to item G, which is pool testing requirement for staff. Superintendent Ray.
Okay. So, in the last 2 weeks, there is a memo in your packet that talks about our request of the school committee to approve, is that we know that coming down the line, and this was kind of in motion before we got word from OSHA that the Biden kind of requirement that any business over 100 people would require their employees to either be vaccinated or test weekly. When that announcement was made, municipal and school employees were excluded from that. But Maine is one of the 26 states and/or territories that has a state-approved OSHA plan, which basically means that requirement now comes to us. And while the rules have not been written yet on what the vaccination and testing will look like, our nurses, our staff cannot continue to operate day to day knowing who may test and who may test positive and have to go home, or do we have to ramp up serial testing for an unvaccinated staff? It's just too much. And they've been doing this now for, well over a year, and we need to make sure that our children and our staff and our families are as well protected as possible. When we deal with some of the testing pieces that occur, or we deal with COVID situations at school, 9 times, well, let's say just more than 9 times out of 10, these are cases that are coming from the outside, get reported at school, and we deal with the kind of the calls to parents and quarantining and whatnot. Put staff in a tough place, and we want to make sure that staff are protected. We want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure that school is a safe place and that our schools can stay in 5 days a week. And so we're recommending taking the step to, before the rules are written, to make sure that vaccination status is reported to us. And if not, we have a testing program put into place so that we can meet the federal requirements when that all comes out. I think that for any of us who read the paper and you looked at vaccination status of the employees here, that was in the Press Herald a couple of weeks ago, it became very frustrating that we had a situation where we needed to report out on our vaccination status, but the guidelines that were given to us by DHHS and the DOE is that we could put out an unidentifiable survey. So I could send you a survey. You didn't have to fill it out. I had no idea which ones filled it out or not because I wasn't allowed to track it. If you didn't answer the survey, it was an automatic no. And so we want to have a situation where we know in our schools. And if we have this and a person doesn't want to either tell us or they choose not to vaccinate, we will test to make sure that we're safe.
Superintendent Ray, are you looking for a vote on this tonight?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Ray? Is there a school board member willing to make a motion? School board member LaFortune?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the recommendation put forth regarding testing.
Motion's been made by School Board Member LaFortune to approve the recommendation from the superintendent for pool testing requirement for staff. Is there a second by School Board Member Preble? Any discussion?
I think Mr. Mayor, I just think it makes sense to explore those things, because if we're going to keep our schools open back to 5, it is a good measure to move towards.
Thank you. Any further to School Board Member LaFortune?
A quick clarifying question. So if the guidance comes down or things ultimately change where this either morphs into something more restrictive or goes away altogether, we're ultimately free to come back and revisit this, correct?
Correct. I think one of the pieces that right now we have the tool of pool testing, and part of the reason that we would require pool testing is that there is a shortage of the Buy Next Now test kits out there. So as this ramps up and as all employers start to put this into play, I suspect we'll see a greater shortage that's out there. What we don't know is whether pool testing will meet the standard of a negative test prior to coming to work once we hit the OSHA guidelines. So I suspect one way or the other, Kevin, we'll be back here with a modified plan of what we need to do based off that guidance. I think there's also another piece in the law where it says that you must test at least once a week. But what that means, whether we want to do more or need to do more, is still a little bit of a wait and see.
Any further questions? School Board Member Truman?
I just want to say that I think this is wise to start some sort of expectations for staff, just so that they know what could be expected of them, just so that there's no, I don't know, noise about it later, I guess.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Brings us to item H, an appointment of a board member for Ward 1. You've received in your packet a couple of applications or resumes, one from Arthur Archie and one from Anthony Pileski. Arthur Archie, are you here? If you'd like to come down and say something to the school board, you're more than welcome to do so.
So, Mr. Mayor, just from the standpoint of there not ever really being any definition of how the process works, I'm completely fine with the direction that we're going in. I'm wondering if the path is really to go down the introduce yourself, let us know why you're interested in school board, and then potentially there would be additional questions that might get asked.
That is the path that I'm on, the similar path that we did for the city council.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Archie?
Hi, I'd just like to introduce myself as Arthur Archie. I am a concerned parent and a younger, fresher face to the community, and I would just like to take the opportunity to say hi to everybody. I did submit a letter to you. I tried to keep it short and sweet because I anticipated some questions, and I'd just like to pass it off to Anthony.
Thank you. Artie, in case there's any questions. Any questions from the board? School Board Member LaFortune?
I don't have a question per se. It's maybe more of a little deeper dive into what sort of drew you to interest in filling this interim spot.
Well, I was concerned that nobody would, and I'm already on the ballot because I would like to represent my community. And I own a local lawn care business, and so I talk with a lot of the people in my community, and so I can hear a lot of the comments and complaints, and I feel like our ward is going to miss Christina, and I feel like we need somebody to step in and make sure that we're represented right.
Arthur, excuse me, have you sat on any boards or committees before this?
Not in my adult life.
Are you familiar with the FOIA, or what is known as the Freedom of Access Act?
I have done research on it, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? School Board Member Preble?
Hi, sorry, I have a couple questions. What's your availability? Because often with school board committee meetings, as time goes on, there are added meetings. So as a candidate running as well, but also in a potential position, are you available? What's that look like for you in your
Are
adult
you
life?
looking for actual hours, or?
I am looking for the fact that if your availability for meetings and things and in conjunction with your adult life.
Yeah, so I get out of work, I go into work very early and I get out very early, so I have most of the evening to do anything that's necessary.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Arthur. Up next is Anthony Pileski. Anthony, if you'd like to come forward. If you'd like to state anything that you haven't already in the letter that you sent to the school board?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Tony Pileski. Anthony is reserved for my father and bill collectors. I live at 7 Chantel Way with my wife and 2 children who have just recently left the pre-K to 8 system. Our youngest is now over at TA. I have been coming to these meetings for the past 5 or 6 years very regularly. Prior to Zoom, there were times where I was one of 3 non-board members, non-employees in the crowd. And when I say there were times that way, there was years where it was that way. I'm not here because I want to be here. I'm here because someone needs to be sitting over there, and I think I could do a good job for the next couple months. I don't want to run. I don't want to do it long term. I think there's an end date there, and I think I could do a really good job so that you guys don't have to teach anybody anything, or at least not much of things, for the next couple months. I also have had a couple conversations with Artie. He'd be a good in that position as well. So if you decide to go that way to get someone, some on-ramp for who might win the election, I think you'd be fine in that regard too. But I'm ready, willing, and able. To your question about time, I also run my own business. I work from home, so I'd probably be available. In full transparency, I've looked at the scheduled meetings, and I would probably miss the one during Thanksgiving week. We have an April 2020 vacation that has been rescheduled 3 times and will be occurring then. But other than that, I'd love to join you, help out for the next couple of months, and if you have more questions, let me know.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Tony? School Board Member
The only
LaFortune?
question I have is, I've been keeping track of the questions that we've asked, and I'm assuming in the spirit of consistency that we ask the same ones to everyone. So I guess I'm going to just follow up with, if you could just outline some past involvement with committees in town.
Sure.
And then the FOIA question was also asked.
Sure. I have volunteered for and been appointed to a couple of administrative interview committees, so a couple principals in town that I helped interview and select. I was on one of the new school construction committees. There have been several in the past decade. I was on one of them. I have attended not just the board meetings, but also the subcommittee meetings for finance, infrastructure, and strategic planning, I believe, and participated in discussions and conversations for those as well.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I think the only other one was the FOIA question.
Oh, yes, the FOIA question, and I'm not sure how you.
Are you familiar with the Freedom of Access Act and how that works?
In general, yes.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So at this time, there are no more members that have put in, so the choice is up to the school board. I think we can either have some discussion beforehand and then make a formal motion, which I think is probably the best bet, or you can make a motion of a candidate, then have some discussion, and then make a vote on the candidate. Would you like to do discussion first or make a formal motion? I'll accept either. Is there a school board member who's ready to make a motion?
I just want to say that, considering the circumstances where we have people already on the ballot, it feels, I don't know if I can vocalize this, it feels weird for us to vote for somebody who's may or may not be on the ballot. And like, perhaps we'd be giving them an upper hand. I don't know if they are on the ballot. Do you know what I mean? Like, if someone that is looking to run, I feel like that's up to their ward. And it's still up to their ward to vote for them too, but I don't know, it feels like a weird situation to be in, so.
Thank you. School Board Member LaFortune?
I definitely see where you're coming from. I know the shortness of time with respect to how close we are to the election. It's definitely something that is something to consider. But we have had instances in the past where someone has been appointed and then ultimately they've run in the fall anyway. I could go either way on that. It's either a tremendous advantage or potentially a tremendous disadvantage, depending upon how the next few meetings go. So I'm sort of on the fence.
Any further discussion, or are we ready for a motion? The choice is up to the school board, so at this point, you have two candidates. One is on the ballot for for November, and will take office in December. The other one is not on the ballot, but has been a regular and active member of coming to these meetings and so forth. So you have two great candidates out there, and now it's just your opportunity to make a choice for the next 2 months. School Board Member Truman.
I guess, considering how I'm feeling about this whole process in general, I think I would be leaning towards Tony Pileski. Did I say it right? Okay, I was like, ugh. And I think you guys are both great candidates. Both have, great interest in the schools, and I think that because Mr. Pileski is just looking to do short-term and is pretty familiar with the process, and so we're not giving anybody on the ballot any kind of upper hand, I'd feel comfortable making a motion to have him be appointed.
Motion to appoint Tony Pileski has
Yes.
been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr.
School Board Member LaFortune?
I just want to thank everyone, even the ones we haven't gotten to yet. Given how short the window was to do this, that to have anyone interested in coming to join the school board, even for a very short period of time, is a really great thing to see. And to have it be more than one person as well is an excellent outcome, given the circumstances we're in. So that's basically all I wanted to add for discussion, is that I really thank you all for coming to the front of the line and saying, I'm interested and willing to help out.
I want to second that as well.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote to appoint Tony Pileski to school board member for Ward 1 until the election. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Brings us to item I, appointment of a school board member for Ward 5. There are 3 candidates that provided documentation in the packet. That is Justin Chinette, Charles Massey Jr., and William Gale. At this time, I'd like to invite Justin Chinette to come up and address the board, if he'd like to.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Superintendent Ray, and school board members. I'm Justin Chenette, and I reside at 284 Bradley Street, Unit 5, with my husband, Edward. I won't read you my lengthy letter, but hopefully everyone received that and had a chance to look that over. So just to kind of answer some of the questions that have come up tonight of some of the reasons why I would like to put my name forward for consideration. Obviously, for the previous 8 years, I served in the legislature, and education was really a highlight of my service. We focused on elements such as raising the state share of education funding, focusing in on our anti-bullying laws and making sure we're getting feedback from our districts regarding implementation of our bullying laws, and then making service learning a component of our graduation standards and making sure that young people have the tools and resources they need to live happy and successful lives later in life. Had a great relationship with the Education Commissioner, Pender Macon. Took her around to our local schools, even though she doesn't need any introduction because she actually went through our schools. So she's a proud product of our Saco school system as well, which is fantastic. We'd like to leverage that relationship as we continue with the Young School Project. I did serve on the State Board of Education. I was a youngster, I was a student, but it was a really great experience to meet individuals all across the state and actually be a part of the process for approving school construction projects. So to kind of see the other end of that process would be fairly interesting, and it might be useful to you all over the next couple of months. And just as sort of a last note, I have spent a great deal of time in our schools helping to teach the next generation civics education about how their government works. And we use whoopie pies as an example, which is always fun. But I find that that work is really enthralling, to see a child light up and excited to use their voice to make an impact in our community, and in our state, and in our country. That's if I was to identify one thing I really could take away from my legislative experience, it was actually my time in the schools with the students. I really enjoyed that piece. So I would hope to continue that if selected for the school board. So I think some of the questions that came up related to our freedom of access laws. I actually serve on the state's Right to Know Advisory Committee. So we're actually providing recommendations and advice to municipalities and school districts, so definitely comfortable on that front, and be happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? School Board Member LaFortune?
To cover everything again.
Yeah.
The availability question that was asked, what your availability is over the next.
Absolutely. Luckily, I also work from home, so I can pop over. We live right on Bradley Street, so it would be no problem to serve in that capacity.
Any further questions?
I have a quick question.
School Board Member Preble?
Mr. Chenette, are there currently any other advisory councils or things that you're working currently in your everyday life during the week that may or may not interfere with a board meeting or anything? I know you have a lot of amazing things you do, and just curious around that.
Absolutely. So I do have another state appointment, but at this present time, there are no scheduled meetings for the fall. So I think it all kind of shakes down so that I can serve over the next few months in this capacity if selected. So, and I would just say as an aside, I would not put my name forward unless I could give 110% to the cause.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Justin, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Up next is Charles Massey Jr.
Hello, Chuck Massey, either way. I've known Art Tardif ever since the day I was born, my neighbor of mine. And when I saw the ambulance taken away a few weeks ago, I figured he wouldn't be able to finish his term out, and I thought for a month I could help fill in for him. I get three grandkids in the system. Burns and middle school in Thornton. So, and I went through all the, from Sweetser on up. And I thought I could give something back or help out. I haven't done much for the city since I used to coach baseball at Notre Dame, but it's been a while. I work nights, so I could make the meetings. I don't work Wednesdays, so.
Thank you. Any further questions? School Board Member LaFortune?
Pretty sure we covered them all, but the FOIA question, I guess, is to be asked, so the Freedom of Information.
Chuck, are you familiar with the Freedom of Access Act or the FOIA request?
Yeah, yeah.
And have you served on any boards or committees?
No, no. No, it's, I main med, that stuff, but not in Saco.
Just generally, any boards and committees?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Oh, thank you very much.
Right.
Up next is William Gale.
Good evening. I'm William Gale. I live on 17 Cherryfield. And I'm running for school board. So similar to Artie, you know, one of the things that, the reason why I put my name forward is just to make sure that there was somebody here representing Ward 5, and obviously kind of with the direction of the board, you know, I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of candidates who are running, and understand and appreciate the position you all are in. And I think we're lucky enough to have two other folks, in Justin and Chuck, apply. And one of the big things that motivated myself to run is to increase engagement and participation. And I think it's a great sign, as everyone has said, and Chair LaFortune, you had mentioned, is that we've got multiple people coming in from Ward 5 to put their name in, even for a month. So I think that is a good sign, and I'm really happy with the folks that applied, and I think either of them would do great on it. Obviously, I would also like to be appointed, just to be able to hit the ground running. I think I've got, you have my letter and resume. I think I've got a lot of experience on the budget side and on the public sector side that I could provide support and leadership towards. I guess in terms of the FOA, I'm currently the Public Information Officer at Northern New England Passenger Rail Authority, so I'm familiar with the requirements there. In terms of the boards and committees, I'm currently sitting on the Traffic Safety Committee here, which has been terrific, and I think, in terms of time, yes, obviously realize the time commitment. One of the things that before running, having a discussion with my family, and everyone is very supportive, and I would make the time. But yeah, so if there's any other questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I think the only other one was if you had done any other committees besides, I know you mentioned the FOIA one and you're on the traffic. Are those the two that you're on?
Yeah, so the FOA, as my role for my job, I'm designated that person. So it's not really a committee, but just in terms of FOA requests coming in, I'm the one who handles all that and organizes it. So.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
School board members, we're at that sometimes difficult point again to, basically choose between our neighbors as who you'd like to have on the board with you. It's not an elegant process. It's not a process that's, in my opinion, the best, but it's the process we have here today. So with that, any discussion, or is there a school board member ready to make a motion? Again, this is another example. We have a great opportunity with 3 candidates all coming before you and putting themselves out into the arena for your consideration.
I was just going to say the same thing to kind of give myself a few more minutes to think. But I do agree, like this was, I mean, sometimes you wish you only had one option just so that you could just be like, okay, you're it. But at the same time, like it's nice to see the engagement, and I like to see that people are really interested in our schools, and I appreciate everybody coming in for both wards as difficult of a decision that this is, so, thank you.
I would just like to say, I think we have a beautiful, rich, amazing experience across the span. We've got a nurse, we've got Justin, we've got people that know about the FOIA Act in their daily lives, in their job. We have an amazing candidates to choose from, and it's very hard to choose from all three. So thank you again. It's nice and exciting to see the multiple wards showing up, participating. I think that's really good for public engagement. So, oh, it's so hard difficult to make a choice.
Any further discussion, or are we ready for a motion? We want a little bit more time to think it over.
Does anybody have the Jeopardy theme song, like the little?
I'm prepared to make a motion, I think.
School Board Member LaFortune.
I move that we nominate William Gale for this position.
Motion's been made by School Board Member LaFortune to nominate Will Gale for the position of Board Member for Ward 5. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Someone had to go first. So.
Any further motions?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Chuck Massey Jr. for the vacancy in Ward 5.
School Board Member Richard has made a motion to approve Chuck Massey as the Ward 5 School Board Member. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, a roll call vote on approving Charles Massey as the board member for Ward 5 until after the election. School Board Member Preble.
Again, it's such a difficult choice for me because I think we have amazing candidates. I am going to go with yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Congratulations to Tony Pileski and Charles Massey for your appointments. And again, thank you to all those that put themselves into the arena and came up and spoke before the school board. It's never an easy thing to do, so thank you very much. With that brings us to item 13, other information. There's nothing in the packet. Does anybody have anything at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member LaFortune.
so the FOIA question that you asked actually is a good lead into a need to do some form of orientation for the two new members. So I guess I'm going to ask the superintendent the best approach to do that. I don't believe we have an orientation packet, but there are some basic things that do ultimately need to get covered.
Yeah, we can pull some things for main school management. They have a handbook for new school committee members that we can provide a copy of. We can sit down and talk about those pieces. We would need to have email addresses created. I do not know, Mr. Mayor, I'm assuming there must be a swearing-in process?
Yes, Michelle Hughes will be in contact with the candidates to get them sworn in prior to your next meeting.
Okay. So I'll have to do some work on that end, Kevin, to make sure we have those pieces available for them. And I'll be in contact with the new members about setting up email addresses, getting contact information, phone numbers, those types of things.
And the other thing is provide the link for where they do the
Yes,
directed
there's that training that they need to do online on the state DOE website.
Any further Other information? Okay, moving on. There's no executive session tonight. That brings us to item 15. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion? Roll call vote to adjourn. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 to adjourn at 6:05 PM. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.